Hey guys!
Hello!
Welcome back to our channel.
Welcome to Rise. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Evelyn.
And today we're going to be talking about self-love. How do you find it? How do you develop it? And we've broken it down into 4 different phases of developing this self-love.
This relationship with self.
Yeah, so it's really an inner union.
Yeah.
There's 4 levels to it, okay? So the way we've broken it down, we're going to give you first a description of what self-love actually is and a little bit of a story to give you an idea. A better, what's the word I'm looking for? Like an analogy of it. And then we're going to break down the 4 different phases.
Right. So just to clarify, when we're talking about self-love, we're not saying, oh, go get your nails done, go to a spa, like spend the day at the spa. Yeah. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is relationship to self.
Yeah. I mean, those things are an aspect of self-love. Don't get me wrong. But you're not going to get what you're looking for. You're not going to be able to learn how to fill your own cup by going and getting your nails done.
Right. Because all you're doing is addressing the surface. You're not really going down to the core, to the wound as to why there is no self-love or why there is no self-respect.
Right.
So what we're going to do is try to get to the core as to where this lack of self-love came from.
Yeah. And then how to develop that, right? How to find it, how to build it. Because the only thing worse than, if you don't have self-love, you're going to be chasing it and looking for it in other people, other things, whether it's in money, in a career, in a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, you're going to be chasing it if you don't know how to fill your own cup.
Right.
So how do we fill our own cup?
Right.
So there's 4 phases to developing self-love, which is basically self-actualization. So the first phase, we're going to tell you the 4 phases, and then we're going to break down each phase.
Right.
The first one is the inner union between your child self and your adult self.
Right. And then step 2 or phase 2 is between your mind, which is you can also see it as the fear or ego versus your heart.
And then phase 3 is the inner union between your feminine energy and your masculine energy. So yeah, you have both always, and it's just connecting the 2.
Right. And the beautiful dance between both of them within yourself. And the 4th and final one is between body and spirit, or body and source, body and God. It's becoming that vessel to allow your connection to God.
Yeah, and we're actually going to be time stamping this video, so you can come back at any time to this video. Let's say you complete phase 1 and you feel that you've gotten to that aspect of it, you've completed it, then you can come back and watch phase 2. Because if we're being honest, if you're starting at phase 1, phase 4 is going to make 0 sense to you. Right? So that's why we're going to time stamp it so you can come back at any time and watch this.
Right.
So
let's dive right in.
Phase 1 of self-love. Okay? So if you're starting from scratch and you just don't know where to start, it's between the inner child self and the adult self.
Right. Because remember too that this is the first stage where you first developed your relationship with yourself and how you saw yourself. And it was purely dictated a lot by those around you, your parents, how they parented you, how, like your friends, the stories, like everything that you experienced as a child pretty much molded you into the person you are now.
Yeah, because when you're born, like a child knows that they are complete on their own. They know how to completely love themselves. And we just assume everyone around us loves us too. And we assume that everyone loves each other. And then we're thrown into these families where our parents most likely grew up in painful situations themselves, and they just don't know how to show love the way you would expect to experience it. They don't know how to receive love themselves, and then you develop that
relationship with self is based on the projections of other people.
Right. So how do we develop this? I think it's around asking yourself questions about your inner child. So
like when you were a child, like for example, how were you as a child? Were you the type of child that found bliss in being outside, being outdoors, having like conversations with yourself, like
with
playing
animals,
pretend, playing pretend? Like, who were you as a child?
Yeah.
Like for me, I could remember like running outside and just being outdoors and getting myself into like mischievous things, you know, like but exploring. Like I've always had that like need and like desire to explore and be outdoors and be outside and be playing, and like I also had a very vivid imagination, and based on the cartoons I would watch, I would have these like, I would play out these like scenarios, and it was like I was like an actor in my own film, you know.
It's funny, like when I was a child, people used to tell me I lived in my own little world, like my own bubble, and it's because I would like be talking to angels and fairies, or like maybe not fairies, but like angels and like animals. Like I had cats and dogs and hamsters, and I would just talk to them like people, right? And like that was like I don't remember but the conversations how they went down, but obviously in my purest state I was able to understand them. So it's just remembering that child self, I think, and like who was she, who was he. Who are you at your core before society and your parents told you had to be a different way?
Once the society started trying to fit you into a box, you know. Another thing too is to think back on moments where you felt the most safe being yourself. Yeah. You know, like who was around you? What kind of qualities were in these people that you felt safe with? You know.
I think safety too is one of those things where we lose it as we get older, because as children, as a child, you naturally feel safe around people and things, and you just assume everything is good and everything is love, and then you're taught or you learn from life experiences that that's not true, right? So it's returning to that sense of safety and remembering and that innocence, returning to innocence, right? Remembering that you are still safe even though your mind tells you you're not. Even though your mind tells you that you need to make more money, or someone's might leave, or whatever it is, like it's all an illusion.
Right. And also too, another thing to ask yourself as well when you were a child is like, what kind of parent did you need, or what kind of person did you need around you?
How could you be the parent you wished you had?
Right. Yeah.
Right? How can you reparent yourself? And I think that's where the work comes in, because and here's the action step, okay? So if you're in this phase of like healing the inner child self, which many people when they're first developing self-love, I think we don't realize that inner child is still inside you. Right. He or she is still in there, like in this little closeted room, probably full of dust. And like it's going in and like talking to that little person and asking them what they need, seeing who they are, because you've been ignoring them most likely for years. If you've never talked to that person since you were a kid, you've been ignoring them. So.
Right. Or like the idea of like leaving the past in the past. Yeah, you can't do that.
You can't leave your inner child in the past.
You can't leave your inner child in the past, because he or she is dictating all your decisions. Like when it comes to,
she's throwing tantrums in there, okay?
Yeah.
So when your boyfriend or girlfriend gets upset with you or doesn't call you back or something, it's your inner child that's going, who do they think they are? Why are they leaving? Are they never going to come back? Like that little voice in your head that's yelling at you or like scared, that's the inner child. Right. And he or she is scared. That's why you're hearing those things, right? You may look like an adult, but you ain't. Right. All right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like he or she is dictating how you're behaving, how you're responding to certain situations, especially when it comes to when it triggers abandonment issues or where you don't feel safe. Like your inner child she's the one who's tugging at you, and she's the one who's bringing up these fears. Like if somebody does walk away,
what's gonna happen?
Like, you know.
So for me, to heal this aspect of myself, I like to do things in meditation, but if that's not your thing, that's fine too. I also know people who can like write it down. So you can ask your inner child, you can say out loud or in your mind, like, what do you need? What do you want to tell me? And just let your mind go blank and listen. Whatever comes to your mind, you might think it's just your head talking to you, but it's not. Like that's the aspect of self. It's the child self talking to you through your mind. So what you're hearing is true. Right. So you can write it down as you're listening, right? That's what I do. I write it all down as I'm just hearing it. Anything that I hear, I write it all down, and then I'll go back and read it. Yeah. And usually when it's coming out, it doesn't make sense. But then when you go back and read it, like it's like a full novel explaining what this this child is feeling inside of yourself.
Like another thing that I did was actually I pulled out a picture of myself as a child and I spoke to her, and she spoke right back, and she said exactly, because like I know like some people have a hard time visualizing things. So for me, I pulled her out and I started speaking to her and asking her. And it's crazy because then all these like moments that you've experienced, where you did experience the lack of safety, lack of love, you know, like these moments, it's crazy how it's so ingrained in you that they come up and you're like, oh my God, like I totally had forgotten this. But it comes up because there was something there that was traumatic for you, that left an imprint on you,
and it's stuck in the vessel somewhere. And until it's addressed, until it's what's the word I'm looking for, until you
acknowledge and heal that moment and release it, that's when you'll let go of the pain that came along with that moment.
And I think it's about reparenting yourself too, right? So if this child is saying like, I'm not loved, nobody loves me, your adult self, because inside you always have a child self and an adult self, so you can literally like visualize or write the story down, whatever works best for you, and see your adult self holding your child self, loving your child self, talking to them, giving them what they need, feeding them proper food, like whatever you weren't given in your actual childhood, giving that to yourself in your mind.
Right.
Because whether it's happening now or in the mind, it's healing you, because the mind doesn't actually know the difference.
Right.
Okay, so you can reparent yourself here.
Yeah.
And that's really a huge phase. If you can complete this phase, your life will change drastically.
Yeah. Because like also too, what you're doing in this stage is rewriting your story.
Yeah.
You know, and you are no longer the victim of your past, because you are changing now. Your perspective is clearer now than it was when you were a child, right? Because it's almost like you're experiencing these moments again, but from a viewer outside, instead of being that child, that innocent child that didn't feel protected. Now you are experiencing it from, you can see both angles, you being an adult and being able to relate to your adult parents.
Right.
You know, like it's a totally different perspective now that you're getting from doing this work.
And you can also go in and if you can reparent yourself, that's the safest bet. But as you develop that, you can go in and change the story with your parents, right? So I would go in as like 4-year-old Sarah, and I would talk to my dad, and I would imagine him like being the loving, caring father that I wished I had at the time. And it just heals you.
Right.
Like I said, the mind doesn't know the difference.
Right.
Right? It's like athletes, like the Olympians, like they visualize winning, and the mind really doesn't know the difference. Right. So it's the same idea there. So heal the inner child. I'm telling you, if you do this, you'll be happy. Like this will bring happiness to you. The next 3 steps are more spiritual expansion and ascension, but this inner child work is the deepest work you can do. So focus on that first. So phase 2
is mind/ego fear versus your heart.
Right.
So, like, we're going to start just with asking you, like, certain questions just to get the gears going, and for you to just, if you can relate to this, or you can analyze your life to see if these things fit. So one of them would be, are
you giving and receiving freely?
Yes.
Would be the first question, right? So, are you able to love someone and receive love freely without worrying if it's gonna, like, so if you're in the mind, you might be like, okay, I'm gonna say I love you because I want to hear it back, right? Or I'm gonna give this person a gift because I hope they're gonna give me something back. I'm gonna help this person because I want them to help me back.
Yeah.
That's from the mind.
It's very transactional, the way you view giving and receiving.
Right.
Like, it's never just, I can receive, and it's because they're giving from their heart. It's not they're expecting something from me.
Because the truth is, the mind can't understand love. The mind is literally trying to strategize how to keep you alive.
Right.
That's what it's there for.
It's there to protect you, right?
Right.
And also, too, based on maybe as a child, too, right? You only received love if you were behaving well, if you succeeded in school. What were you doing as a child to be able to receive love from your parents? Like, for me, it was, I only got attention from my parents when I was doing well in school, so it was very transactional. It wasn't oh, you know, I could just be me.
Just love you for the sake of loving.
You're right. Like, I always felt, well, that's in my mind, right? This is the story I created that I had to perform in order to receive love.
Right.
Right.
Because if you're living from the mind, that's where you're going to be it's always thinking, right? Whereas the heart, when you're living from the heart, if you're able to sit in the heart and live from there, your cup is already full. You can love someone, you can give gifts, you can give freely without ever needing it back, because that it's like the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the source of all love, right? It's like the
love is abundant, and love doesn't have
like the fountain of love. That's what I'm thinking of, like the goddess of love. Right. Like the fountain of love is your heart, right? You don't need it back.
Right.
It's just giving and
you have enough within you to be able to give and not have to receive it back.
Yeah. So another question you could ask is like, are you overthinking things? Do you live from your mind? If you're living from the mind, you're always thinking. If you're living from the heart, you're feeling. Right? And I think the mind is
it clouds your judgment a lot. Because also to remember you're making stories up based on your past programming, based on your past experiences. It was interesting, we were talking about this today, that the reason we overthink is because we have fear of asking questions of what is actually happening. Yeah. Right? Because we're scared of hearing what the other person has to say, because then it might be worse.
We make assumptions because we're afraid of asking questions.
Right.
So be brave enough to ask.
Right.
Ask for clarification. Right? And I think the mind, too, is like, we have to remember, the mind is not there for you to live in it.
Right.
The mind is literally there to get things done. Right? So let's say you're driving, you need to drive to a place, or you need to get something done in work, for your workplace, for your career. Right? Like, you shouldn't be living in your mind thinking about, worrying about things. Your mind is used as a tool to get things done.
Right.
And then you're supposed to come back into your body, back into your heart, and just be present.
Yeah, and let your heart guide you.
Right.
Right? Because, like, I think, too, what's happened is that we have confused being guided by our heart, and we're confusing that with love. Right. And we think that love hurts us because... Well, we've all been in, like, relationships where we've gotten our heart broken.
The mind hurts you.
Right. It's the mind, it's your expectations that hurt you. Love does not hurt. Right? So it's just coming back to that and your connection to heart and letting your heart lead you. And then you do what you need to do.
You can just
based on
right. You don't have to worry about
it. So that's another thing too, right? Is like, how much are you in your mind, and then how much are you being present in the moment? Right. So is your overthinking taking away from you being present in the moment? Like when you're out with your friends, are you in the moment? Yeah. Are you listening to what people are saying?
Or are you worrying about what you're going to say next?
Right. Right.
Which is what a lot of people do.
Right.
They're listening, but they're like, okay, how am I going to fill the silence? What am I going to say that sounds smart, that I can connect to here? That's living from mind rather than being here and just receiving the other person as a reflection of you.
Right.
Right? It's like, stop seeing this, anyone you talk to is outside of you, or like you have to give your input. I know it's natural, it's human nature to talk about yourself. I understand that, but it's about learning to let go of that a little bit and be more present.
And be more present, yeah. So that's like another thing too, is like the decisions you're making, how much are they based on coming from your heart, from your soul, and how much is it based on fear, judgment, past experiences? Like, are you making decisions based on this? Are you making decisions based on fear? Or are you making decisions based on love and what your soul calling really is? You know?
Are you always trying to strategize, or are you feeling into your gut instinct with it, right?
Yeah.
I think a big part of this too, like, how do we transition from being in the mind and coming down to self, being present, right? And the honest truth, you might not like it, but it's really just a habit.
Yeah.
It's realizing when you're in your head, like letting go of the thoughts, whatever it is, whatever you think is important right now, actually isn't. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just an illusion your mind is creating to create drama, chaos. It's like you're watching a movie all day long, right? So when you notice you're doing these things, it's about literally just letting go of that thought, that moment, trusting you're going to deal with it when the time comes, and coming back to the moment, right? So you can, to do that, so I used to, like, I'd be driving and I would just pay attention to the trees. I'm like, what color are the trees? How are they moving? How are they, what am I feeling on my skin? Like, come back to your senses.
Right. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. It's funny because, like, I was reading this. I'm reading this book right now called The Mastery of Self, and it talks about that. It's like returning back to your senses. You know, what are you smelling? What are you feeling on your skin? Like, feel your lungs when you take a breath, and like feel like the blood going through your veins. Like, feel like the warmth of the seat hugging your butt as you're driving. Like, it's these things. Like, be present, feel all what you're, listen to what is happening on the outside. Do you hear birds chirping? Do you hear cars? Do you hear like traffic? Like, just be in that moment. And it's opening up your senses, right? And like, if you do have these thoughts, like when you start overthinking and you start over planning or anything like that, for a moment just be like, you know what, in this moment I do not want to think. I do not want to think. I will deal back. And bring yourself back.
It's just a habit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like anything else. It's like going to the gym. It's like brushing your teeth. You have to train yourself to get out of your head. Don't let your mind control you. It's supposed to be there as a tool, and come back to the present self.
Yeah.
It's so cute. So I was driving with my son. He's 5 years old, and we were driving in the car, and we had this cute song on. I forget what song it was, but he loved it. And he was dancing, and you just saw him in his car seat, like, rocking out. And he goes, Mommy, he's like, look at the trees. The trees are so happy. They like this song. They're dancing. And he literally was looking at the trees outside and believed that they were dancing with him. And they probably were.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the moment, you are connected to everything, and everything is you.
Everything is reflected back to you, right?
Yeah, if you're happy, the trees are happy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's such an innocent way of looking at it, and
yeah, but it's so. See, honestly, you'll learn life from kids.
I know, so innocent, so sweet. So yeah. So once that's really phase 2, is learning to be present, and obviously we're human. You're not going to be present all the time. It's natural to go back in your mind, but I think it's training your mind to be quiet. Yeah. Because that's peace. Right. Training it to be quiet, except for when you need it, when you call upon it. And coming back to self. Right. Okay. Phase 3. Yep. So
phase 3 is balancing the divine feminine, the divine masculine energy within yourself. So again, in our previous videos, we have mentioned that it doesn't matter if you're male or female.
Yeah, we all have both energies.
We all have both energies within us. Like, again, like for me, my dominant energy is feminine, so I'm probably more like 90% feminine, 10% masculine. Right. And I think, Sarah, you're the same.
Yeah, I mean, I generally believe, and there, of course, everyone's different. Yeah. But for the most part, most people, if you were born in a female body, okay, it's hard to say. If you were born a girl and you were very feminine as a child, that's most likely your dominant energy is feminine.
It really is based on how you were as a child. Like, for me, I grew into a tomboy, but as a kid, like, I was always in pink, in dresses, in, like, I was always flowing and just being such a little girly girl. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was, like, looking back at pictures and I'm like, oh my God, who is this? Yeah. Because I grew into such a tomboy. But again, that was more as my protective shield that I took on this masculine role because I didn't feel safe in my feminine. But my core energy is the feminine. Yeah.
So in that, like, I always think of the yin and yang symbol, right? So it's like, if you know what it is, it's like the black, it has black on one side with like a dot of white, and the other side is white with a dot of black. So if your dominant energy is the feminine, you would, I guess that'd be the white side, I don't know. Yeah. But you'd be mostly the feminine with a dot of the masculine, and that is literally just, you're living in the present, you're living in love, in heart, which is feminine, and you call on your masculine energy just to get things done. Right? So, because if you're just 100% feminine, you're never gonna get anything done. You're gonna be living like in space and the angels, and you're gonna be great. You're gonna be happy and blissed out, but you're not gonna get anything done. You're not gonna be able to pursue your goals, right? You're not gonna be able to set boundaries.
Because because everything that you're downloading, so all the inspiration that you're getting, all the ideas and creativity that's coming to you, you're not going to be able to put that into action without your masculine. It's just really going to be ideas floating, but nothing happening. Right.
And the opposite is true.
And the opposite for the masculine is you're just doing, but you're not with no purpose.
That's the thing, right? So if you're all masculine energy, You're going to be a workaholic most likely.
And not knowing where you're going.
Not knowing where you're going. You're just like working hard. Like those are the people who are like, I work so hard and I get nowhere.
Right.
And the reason for that is because they're not connected to the feminine energy within, right? They're not connected to their intuition. So they're following the money. Right. They're following what their parents think they should do. They're following what other people say they should do, or like what's the best option for them. And they're not trusting their passion. They're not trusting their reason for here, their purpose. Their compass. That's what you call it.
Right, yeah.
Right, so, their inner compass.
Right, so it's like you're going, but you're not going anywhere because you don't have a compass. And your compass is your heart.
The feminine within is the compass.
Right.
Right? So it's like, if you're not connected to her, whether you're a man or a woman, you're going to be living in like you're always going to be strategizing. You're always going to be stuck in your head.
You're going to feel unfulfilled because you don't know what fills your heart because you're blocking your heart.
Yeah. You're going to be literally, you'll most likely be chasing money and have no idea what you actually want. You might be or you might be like,
and like you're still chasing things outside of yourself, whether you're a feminine, like again, like if you don't have direction, you don't know where you're going.
You'd also be chasing love because the feminine is love. Right. So if you're not connected to your own feminine, you're going to try and look for it outside of yourself. Right. Whether it's money, whether it's in a person. Yeah. Right? Because the feminine is pure love. And it's the opposite. If you're too much feminine, you're going to probably look to another person to give you structure.
To do things for you.
To pay for your stuff, to pay the finances. Yeah. Like, oh, I can't do it myself. I need a partner to help me. Right? Like, no, girl, you don't. No. You just need to reconnect with need to rebalance.
Like your masculine within you because you can do it yourself.
Yeah. We need both. That's our natural state, I think, as children. For me, and like even as a little girl, I was very much feminine, but my masculine side knew I was safe. Right. I had so much attitude when I was a kid. Right. I thought no one could touch me, and no one could. Yeah. Because I was in such a great state. Right. And it's the same with little boys. Like my son, he's very masculine. He loves cars and like dinosaurs, and he just wants to take care of me, and like he brings me blankets, just wants to care for people, right? The natural giver. Yeah. But he's still so connected to his heart and to spirit, right? The feminine's also connected to spirit. And you just need that balance. Right. Right? Like, so, yeah. As I think, so for me, because I've really been working on this masculine feminine energy, and so it really feels like when I first balanced it, I'm living from the heart, from the feminine, right? But I could feel my masculine. It almost felt like my spine, my bone structure. It was like behind me, and I felt the masculine energy just like supporting me, and I can call on him to get things done. Right? So it's still a part of me, but just feeling the two different energies. Because most of us have no idea how to feel that energy. Right. Which is why this is phase 3. You need to know your energy enough. You need to have done enough energy work, enough healing to get to this. Otherwise, you're going to have no idea what we're talking about. Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's like feeling that. And like I've been doing this thing where I'm keeping these little promises to myself. So I'll step in, because I like to live from my feminine. That's my natural state. I'll step into my masculine for a moment, and I'll ask my feminine what she needs. And it might be, I need you to pay this bill, or I need you to get this project done, or I need you to just love me. I need you to help me get to my meditation seat tomorrow so I can just be with spirit. Right? Get me there. Right. And I've been keeping these tiny little promises to myself. The masculine keeping the promise to the feminine. Right. And what happens is the moment you fulfill that little promise, the feminine heart just glows. Right? You instantly feel that love from self and for self, and you just trust yourself. It's self-trust. Right. And when you trust yourself, you can you trust others. Right.
But see, that's the thing, right? It's like if you don't have that relationship with yourself where you can trust yourself, then that's why you're not trusting those outside of yourself, right? So if you can't keep a promise to yourself, how are you going to ever trust someone else to keep a promise to themselves? And remember, too, that everything you're experiencing is a complete mirror of who you are at your core. So if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, it's going to mirror back into your 3D as to who's around you, and
3D being your reality,
your
physical reality,
right? Like it's all going to get mirrored back to you. So always see it too as those that are around you, it's just a reflection of what you're lacking, or if it's all great and dandy, then you're doing something right.
That's true. It's funny, like, how this is reflected even recently.
Yeah.
Someone I've been talking to, like, always, I would always blame this person for not being there for me, and, like, always canceling on me, like, just wishy-washy, choosing other things. And I realized very recently that it's because I wasn't
showing up.
I wasn't showing up for myself.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't keeping promises to myself. I was procrastinating. And that was my inner masculine doing this. And it's because I just wasn't letting my inner masculine be the masculine.
Right.
Like, to actually do these things. I was trying so hard just to live in my feminine and be blissed out all the time, but we didn't have that balance.
Right. We were looking for a masculine outside of ourselves to step in when really we
keep these promises that we're not keeping to ourselves.
When really our inner masculine we weren't letting our inner masculine within us step up to take care of us and fulfill these promises that we were making to ourselves. Yeah. Right?
Exactly. So, and it'd be the same for, like, this opposite for men, right? Or here's the thing. If you're a man, like, being a man isn't about being in your mind either. The mind is a masculine aspect of getting things done. But if you are a masculine energy, it's also about learning to stay present in that and to be present for your feminine. Right? That's what you do when you're balanced. You are, even if you're a man and you want to stay in the masculine energy in the back, the structure, the support system, being present for your own inner feminine, like your own heart, your own intuition, not squashing her. If you're squashing her, like we said before, you're going to be stuck in that loop of working, workaholic, or chasing. Right? Being present, like stepping back and asking the feminine self what she needs. What is your next best step? Because the feminine's connected, like.
And also too for males, notice your relationship with females, because that will be a great indicator as to how you view your feminine within you. Again, like we talked about, it all being a mirror. So look at how women in your life are showing up, and that will be a good indicator as to how you're viewing your feminine within you. Yeah.
It's interesting that reflection. It's like, if women are showing up and being, like, almost needy, or you don't do this for me and you don't do realize, like, that is your inner feminine. That's probably what she's doing on the inside, and you're just not listening to her.
Right. Are you showing up for your heart? Are you showing up for your feminine side? Or are you so structured and so rigid? Or do you allow yourself to flow sometimes? You know, when something doesn't go your way, do you get angry and upset and try to force things to happen? Yeah. Or do you flow and let yourself just, you trust that it's going to work out the way it's meant to, and you just release your control and attachment to the outcome?
Yeah, like, people, this is inner union we're talking about, right? This is, like, complete self-sovereignty. Yeah. Like, you don't need anything or anyone to be happy once you accomplish this union within self, right? Whether it's everything we've talked about before, the child, inner child, the masculine, the mind, the heart, like, it's all the same thing. We're breaking it down into 4 phases here to help your mind understand it, but understand that it's all the same, like, it's almost like a snowflake. I see it like a crystal structure, and they're all just connected, and, like, it's all the same shit.
So, it is. It's all like this whole big puzzle that is all connected, and, like, if one thing affects, like, 5 different things, and, like, those 5 things, like, it's just a big, it's all connected. Yeah.
So heal your shit. So how did you balance your feminine and masculine? Like, for me, it was like stepping in my masculine, asking a question, and then going in my feminine and just being and receiving, right? So when my masculine does something for me, like finishes a project, I am so happy. Like, that is self-love.
Right. Like, for me, like, you know, like, what I like, okay, because I'm a list person. Right. Okay. And I just, because I like to know what I'm doing. I like to know where I'm going. Right. So for me, the masculine would make a list of things that need to get done. Right. Because this is what I need to get done. And then because again, my dominant energy is feminine. So then I allow myself to, I don't have to do anything in a specific order. I do things how I feel it. So let's say, like, for example, today, okay, I wanted to make banana bread, for example, and I had a couple of other things to do. I was like, okay, I'm going to do these at my own pace. The way my feminine wants to flow, the way she wants to feel, I will do it based on how I feel. Not I'm gonna get things done without rest, without like being in the moment, no, it's just like I want to do things and be present in the moment while I'm doing them, and I want to do them with heart.
Yeah, which is self-love, right?
Right.
It's like being a service to self.
Right. Not being a servant to the list. Or a servant to what needs to get done.
Or your boss.
Right.
Or your partner.
Right.
Like being of service to self.
Right.
And
listening to what your body is asking for, and like getting yourself into, if I need to take 5 minutes to get myself into a head space or a heart space where I can accomplish something and do it with the right intention, because like that's another thing too, is like living your life with intention. Like where is your intention? Are you coming from heart? Like, and that's where I want to lead from, is I want to make sure I'm doing things with heart. And so if I have to take an extra 5-10 minutes to meditate or just go for a walk, be outside, just connect with self before I can tackle a task.
Otherwise, you were saying like because you were saying to us earlier about like you want to go for a walk, but then you're like, oh, I have work to do, I have so much to do,
right? And
what happens is you just spend your whole day
like being in this like low vibe energy
and like hitting a wall.
Right.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And then I don't get anything done. I'm feeling like shit because because I do need that time for self. Yeah. And I want to be out getting some sun, getting some like fresh air, and being in nature for a bit, and just grounding myself and clearing my vessel so I can allow for creativity. And because like the job that I do, I'm an interior designer, I do need creativity to come in. So just allowing myself those 10 minutes or an hour of self-love and like prioritizing myself and what I need to get into the right heart space.
It almost, for my business too, like I'm a copywriter and I'm in marketing, and it's like if I'm trying to find, let's say, a new client, right? And I have been pursuing a client for a week, and I've been following up with people, and I've been trying to make money, and it's just not happening.
Right.
The answer is simple, and it's because I'm too in my masculine at that point, and I need to flow. I need to get back into connection with everything.
Right.
To allow that to come in.
Right.
Because if you're in your mind, you're blocking.
Right.
Right? Because body is everything. Body is like money. Body is love. Body. When you're in your body, you're connected to everything.
Right.
When you're in your mind, you're not connected to shit.
Right.
Like,
no, you're not.
You're watching a movie, basically. So I think it's like, if you feel like you're hitting a wall in anything and you're trying to force something to happen, it's getting back into that feminine aspect, like that connection to all.
Right. Yeah.
Because that is self-love.
Right.
Feminine's the source of love. So if you're not connected to her, like, you have no love in your heart. You're not feeling it.
Right. You don't have a direction. You don't know where you're going. You're just doing for the sake of doing. Yeah.
You know, this also, the masculine feminine reminds me of the story that we read in the book about like how like the amount of self-love you have is reflected back to what you accept from another. So it's like that story about
so there's this beautiful analogy in the book, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. And roll the R's. And so basically he talks about you having your kitchen. Okay, so in this kitchen, let's say it's fully stocked. Like if you're feeling Italian, you can go make Italian. If you're feeling Chinese, you can make Chinese. Like you have a fully stocked kitchen. So what happens is, if somebody comes knocking at your door and offering you a pizza, you're not going to take the pizza because your kitchen is way better stocked than what that person is offering you.
Yeah.
Now, if your kitchen is empty and this person is offering you a pizza, you're going to take the pizza.
Right. Because you're going to be starving.
Because you're going to be starving. Because you are not fully stocking your own kitchen. So basically what that means is, if you are not putting in the work for yourself, if you are not providing the love for yourself and providing a standard for yourself, you are going to allow anybody who's offering bare minimum, and you're going to take it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? So stock your kitchen.
Stock your kitchen. And if you like to make gourmet Italian meals in your heart, in yourself, then that is the minimum you're going to expect from someone else.
Right.
Right? So that person is either going to have to level up and provide more to join you in your kitchen.
Right.
Or someone else will come in who can. Right? You're only going to... You're
only going to accept what you're giving yourself.
Yeah.
And if that's minimal, then that's what you're going to accept.
Yeah. So if you accept 80% love from yourself, you'll accept 80% from someone else. Right? Or if you only give yourself 10% of the love, you're going to get 10% from the other person.
Right.
Always.
Right.
So I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So let's go into phase 4.
Which we kind of touched on with between body and spirit.
So it's the union of body and spirit.
Yeah.
This is not going to make sense to you if you're still healing self, right? If you're still healing your traumas.
Yeah.
It's like, so the image I get self-healing is like, some of my face. So the image I get with self-healing is like you are pure source love energy. Think of yourself like there's a flame in the middle of you. Like just pure light gold energy. And the unhealed person is covered in sludge, right? Like layers of sludge and stuff and crap from religion, from family, from relationships, school,
past experiences.
Right. It just creates layers and layers of whatever people have told you need to be, like false beliefs that have been put on you, like layers of sludge. Right. And so these first 3 phases is about removing that sludge. Right. So you can see the light within. Because once you get to phase 4, this is about self-realization. Clearing and self-realization that you are God, source, God, goddess, source, love, energy embodied. Right. Okay. And again, this is not going to make sense to you if you're still healing. So please wait. And then come back when you're ready. Yeah. Right? So, the union of body and spirit. Yeah. So, for me, this was like, there was this moment, and I was outside. And obviously, you're always going to be healing. Like, we're human. You're always going to be constantly healing. It's not a done deal process. But at this point, I feel like I've healed the majority of my wounds. And I was laying outside. I was just laying with my back on the grass, and like I felt myself grounding into the earth, and it was this realization of like I am the earth. Like my body is a part of the earth. I am from her. She is like a mother. Like we're all from her. Animals, plants, like we all come from this same earth, which is the body, the physical body. Right? And it's grounding into that and like accepting that side of you. And yeah, so sorry, just to cut you off too, it's just like that because we all have to accept too, like we are half human, half spirit, and it's that humanity that keeps us present, but also that we're not perfect, right? So it's that imperfection that we will never be perfect. Because it's not in us. We're not perfect. And that's okay.
You know? And it's accepting that humanity, but that's the beauty in it, that we can't be perfect. You know, that's unattainable. We can't be.
And that's the self-love aspect of it, right? Loving the human part of self.
Right.
So, yeah. So once you love that side of you and you've healed the vessel enough and you can love those wounds to death. Right. Literally.
It's not about rejecting the wounded part of yourself. It's accepting that person and loving that person regardless, because that is what makes us human.
Love is the cure.
Yeah.
Love heals all. Yeah. When you can like think of the one thing that you hate about yourself, like or you convinced yourself you hate, right? If you were just to love that so deeply, that part of you, like maybe I don't know, maybe you don't like your bottom lip, or I don't know what it is. Yeah. You just love it, love it, love it. Right. Eventually you're going to start looking in the mirror and you're going to love that bottom lip. Right. Like love is the answer. But going back to body and spirit union, this moment for me was like I was grounding into the earth. I accepted I am the earth. Right. My vessel was clear. My mind was quiet. And I just opened up myself and I allowed spirit, pure God energy to come in through me. Like through my crown, through my heart, just like fill me. Right? And I was blissed out. It was like pure union, like just allowing myself to be a vessel for love, for God, goddess, source. Right. Yeah. And it's that realization of like this concept that we have of self, that I am Sarah, that I'm a copywriter, that I have family, and like none of that's real.
Right.
It's all an illusion.
It's all a mask that we've put on.
Yeah.
That we've acquired. Like being here on this earth for however many years, like it's things you've picked up and things you've associated your identity with, or your value with, or your worth with.
Yeah.
You know?
Just let that sink in for a minute. Like, your identity, everything you think you are is not real.
Right.
Like, your body is real because you're from the earth, the same way a bird is, or a plant. But this idea of who you are is not real.
Your identity, no. Because the other thing that you have to realize, too, is that you are forever evolving. Just like the earth is forever evolving. Who you were yesterday is not who you are today. And I think we get so fixated on being someone, or putting these masks on and holding so tight to this identity, because this is who we think we are.
Yeah, we don't know what else
we don't know what else. The fear of the unknown, the fear of who we could be, holds us because we are so attached to what we've been accustomed to.
This is the hardest phase,
right?
But this is the key to self-realization, to enlightenment, I feel.
It's detachment from everything.
From everything you know.
Yeah.
Detachment.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to do, because as a human, you want structure, you want to understand it.
Yeah.
But what we don't understand is, like, we are just pure love energy.
We are
body.
we are everything and nothing at the same time.
You are everything and you are nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not even the soul. Like, the soul, the way we understand it, isn't even true. The soul is just connection to spirit. Like, you are God, goddess, self inside. And that's the light, right? That's the light, the fire that I was talking about. Yeah. It's like that understanding that you are everything. So when I pray at night and I bow to God, goddess, I'm also bowing to God, goddess within self.
Right.
Like, how beautiful is that?
Because we are not a body with a spirit, you know? We are a spirit having a human experience. Like, that's really what this is. This is temporary. Our soul is eternal. You know, we are connected to God eternally. Like, this is...
Yeah.
And just accepting, like, how great and, like, powerful that is.
How liberating is that,
like, the fact that we've been trying to put ourselves in this little box of, oh, Evelyn, this is who I am in this little box,
and I need to develop myself,
right? But it's like shattering that box. Right. Yeah.
This life is short, and you're just, like, here to live it and love and experience and, like, see that reflection of self, of God, goddess in self reflected in all else.
Right.
You are me.
Yeah.
The tree is me. Like, all of it, right?
Yeah.
And again, the mind will never understand this. This is an embodied experience that I'm talking about here, and I'm trying to mentally, like, explain it to you.
Yeah.
Like, you need to mentally understand it first.
Yeah.
But, like, the experience of it, of, like, connecting to the earth and being one with the earth, and then just allowing spirit to work through you.
Right.
Which leads to, like...
Yeah, it's like the analogy or like the vision that you had, that you are light and you're just covered in this sludge. Like, really, it's just the first 3 steps that we talked about is just really removing the sludge, so then you can see really how powerful, like, how, like, pure and, like, just full of love you are. That is your innate.
That's who you were when you were born.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, you knew this.
Right. The purity in that, you
right?
know?
You didn't, when you were a kid, you didn't have goals, and goals aren't bad. It's a human experience, but like, you didn't worry about them. They weren't attached to who you were, to your value. I remember
as a child too, you chose things and you did things that brought you joy.
Yeah,
I remember I could spend hours and hours drawing and coloring, and you know, one time I wrote I made a picture book when I was like 8 or something, and it was like one of my like biggest accomplishments, you know. And I was like, I did it when I was done, like, with the last page. Yeah. It was like the biggest accomplishment for me, and it was just a random, all these papers with pictures in it.
I used to paint rocks, and I would force my neighbors to buy them from me. Yeah.
But yeah,
that was
like
joy.
Like the purity in it, you know, like that you did it strictly out of love, right?
And when you can be love embodied, when you can be God, goddess, source embodied, the pure vessel, which is also Heros Gamos, it's like true union, right, of body and spirit. Like this is true self-love. That's when you're going to find your true mission, your life purpose. Right. Because you are no longer a human trying to make it in this world, but you are God's tool. Right? We're here now, like I'm a copywriter, you're an interior designer, but now we're here talking to you, teaching like our true passions, right? Like this is our mission, right? This is our life purpose. So,
and like that's another thing too. Like for me, I've been an interior designer for like 10 plus years, and it's interesting because I held on to. I don't know if a part of me was holding on to it, but I felt so connected with interior design, and now like finding my purpose of like coming here, like to having a YouTube channel and talking about all this stuff, like this is truly like transitioned into what my purpose is. Like don't get me wrong, I love interior design, but it is no longer who I am.
And I
Do you know what I mean?
For sure, I agree. I find though like the skill sets that I've developed over the last 8 to 10 years in marketing now, I get to use these skill sets for this.
Right.
Like years of being on video for my other business. Now I'm comfortable on video. Now I know I can encourage you to be comfortable on video.
Yeah. And who knew?
Who knew?
I would be on YouTube.
Like these skills that you're developing now, there's a reason for it all.
Right.
You may not know your life purpose yet, but there's a reason. Right.
There's a reason why you got called to certain things in certain moments in your lifetime. For example, like me too. Like I love designing. I've created a business for myself. I feel like a lot of the designs that I've created have come seriously from God, like creativity, the creativity that I get, and it's opened me up to these gifts that I have, you know, and because of that journey that brought me here, I can apply what I've learned being an interior designer now to this new venture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this is it. True self-love is inner union, and it's the remembrance that you are everything and you're nothing. Like this
and allowing yourself to become who you're meant to become without putting restrictions on yourself. You know, like who I was 10 years ago clearly is not the same person I am now. Like the person I was yesterday is not the same person. It's allowing yourself to grow and change and evolve.
Love all of it. And love the journey.
And love the journey. Like don't attach yourself to certain things or certain identities just because you spent so much time in those identities.
And it's okay. You know? Like the pain is your superpower, right? The things that you're healing within yourself one day is going to contribute to your true mission, right? To your purpose. So trust it all. And we love you. And if you're interested in learning more, please join our mailing list, which is also the waiting list for the members area that will be opening soon. We're going to bring in, if you're interested in this subject, we're going to bring in experts every month. We're going to have live Q&A calls where you can interact with us every week. Right. We're going to have ebooks and downloadable products for you so you can actually work through these things. Every month there's a different subject. If this is something you're interested in, or you just want to receive notifications of our videos and our content, please join. Link is below. Absolutely free to join. And let love be your intention always. Bye.
Bye guys. Till next time.
Till next time.